I'm going to show you something that happened in Geneva at the UN in a minute that you need to, especially if you're a union worker, that you need to see. Watch The Other Hand. The next three shows, this week of shows, possibly the most important we have ever done on this broadcast. And by the end of the week, we will be called every name under the sun. Conspiracy theorist, kook, fearmonger, whatever. Have at it, guys. If I were those on the left, I'd lay low and quiet, but I'm not those on the left. We are going to take the brightest light we can find, and we are going to shine it tomorrow. We're going to shine it right on the problem, and that is the problem. The extreme and violent left outlines this very thing in this book I told you about 2 years ago, The Coming Insurrection. It says, visibility must be avoided, but a force that gathers in the shadows cannot avoid it forever. Our appearance as a force must be reserved for the opportune moment. The longer we avoid visibility, the stronger we'll be when it catches up with us. And once we become visible, our days will be numbered. Either we will be in a position to break its hold in short order, or we will be crushed in no time. That is the choice. According to them, these shows may accelerate the timetable. That is why I ask you to tell everyone you know to watch this broadcast tomorrow night, Wednesday night, and Thursday, so we can get this information out as fast as we can. We have things on the website that, I'm going to ask you again, don't take my word for it. We will have footnotes. You'll find them all on the website. We'll tell you about it tomorrow. I will show you the puppet master. Once the light is shining, which is the last thing they want, because they need to remain in the shadows to survive. Oh, once we shine this light on them, well, then you will learn things tomorrow that you will not believe. You won't believe that you didn't know these things. Tell every one of your friends to watch this broadcast tomorrow night. Members of my own staff can't believe that they didn't know the things that they now know. My research staff that does research on this kind of stuff all day long, 6.5 days a week. They couldn't believe that they didn't know this information. What I'm going to show you tomorrow is, well, is this. Here. Can you bring up the witch, or do I have the witch on the table? Oh, here it is. Is this a witch, or is this a beautiful lady? Which is it? It's right in front of you. Which is it? It's right out in the open. Here's the witch's chin. Here's her nose. Here's her eye. Out in the open is the best place to hide, because it's the last place you'd expect if you're doing something nefarious. Why not just do it out in the open, but make it look like something else, and all of a sudden, once you see it, this is blue pill, red pill this week, once you see it, you won't believe you didn't see it the whole time, or you saw it any other way. It goes against what we've been taught, unless you've been taught by our founders. My mother-in-law was over last night. We have dinner with my in-laws every Sunday at the house. It's kind of an Italian tradition. My wife is Italian. My mother-in-law is a union organizer. She's been arrested twice with Jesse Jackson. She is a hardcore Democrat, was until recently. She was an activist in the unions, and she wrote to her union and said, "Tell me exactly again how this is good for me." She's now seeing things, and it's being done right in front of her. She said to me last night, "Glenn, why didn't I see all of this? How did I not see this?" I said, "Mom, it's not you. I didn't see it either. We have all believed one fundamental lie, that we have differences, the Republicans and the Democrats. One's bigger spending, the other's smaller spending. One's bigger military, one's smaller military, et cetera, et cetera." Even those, I'm not even sure anymore. I mean, they're both for bigger government, big spending. At least that's the way they've been, both corrupt. We'll see if things change now after this election. But it's more than that. We will line out for you tomorrow the one thing that we have all missed. There are people in this country, Americans, that despise this country, that are not dressed like Che or Chairman Mao. They are men and women in business suits. They're in demure dresses, people who appear just like you, that despise this country. We missed it. We missed it. And Al-Qaeda, we've been doing it with Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda has come to understand, don't get the 20-year-old Middle Eastern-looking man to be your terrorist, to do the dirty work. You got to get a mom. You got to get somebody who looks like you. And they have. The radical extremists have done just that. And the press has protected the puppet master for a very long time. Why? Why? What are the reasons? Well, I can think of three. And let me play Larry O'Donnell again, one more time.
I, Glenn, unlike you, I am not a progressive. I am not a liberal who's so afraid of the word that I had to change my name to progressive.
I'm not either.
Liberals amuse me. I am a socialist. Okay. I live to the extreme.
I don't know any socialist or Marxist, okay? But I don't hang out on Central Park South, and I don't hang out with news people or professors. So I don't know any. The Marxists, all of them, many in the press agree with them. They agree with their ideology. He's saying it right there. Two, the press gets a lot of their money from George Soros. He has purchased the system. Where is the list of the media that he has purchased? Is it behind this one? Here's the media purchased by George Soros. Look at this. These are people in the bag for him. But wait, how can you say that I contribute to all of these? Did you not see my spooky press release last month? I said it was the first time I ever given to Media Matters. Yeah, really? Yeah. This is what he said in his press release. Do we have it up there? Okay. He said in his press, there's his press release. There it is. Those who are afraid to say. Those who are afraid to say. That's the last one. That's the third one. People agree with him. They're part of it. They get their money from him. And then those who are afraid to say, as you will hear tomorrow. Oh, don't miss tomorrow's broadcast. We are the canary in the coal mine. I got off the phone before I got on the air this afternoon. I spoke to somebody who's been tracking George Soros and his activities for 15 years. And George, it's not who you think it is. Please, I know who you're thinking. I know who you think I'm talking about. I'm not talking about somebody else. Oh, yeah, I know who you are. I do. And we're about to expose it. When he was on the phone with me, he said, Glenn, are you going to cover this? Yes. You're going to cover this? Yes. You're going to say this? Yes, I am. Yes, I am. He said, how are you going to do that in an hour? I said, I'm not going to do it in an hour. I think it's going to take us about 3 days. He then asked, really? I said, by the tone of your voice, let me ask you this question. Has there anybody that has ever taken this guy on like this? He laughed. Been researching him for 15 years. Laughed. He said he's the 35th richest man and one of the most powerful men on the planet. No, nobody's ever done this. There are trillions of dollars and literally the control of the planet at stake. Everything we have on this man has been documented. Everything we have is verifiable. I want you this week as you watch to understand I could not say these things about the most powerful man on planet Earth and stay on the air if they were not true. What you will see this week is shocking and true. You will hear and see it tomorrow. But again, I leave you with this never-ending advice. Do not take my word for anything. Tomorrow, there will be footnotes on the website. You do your own homework. You decide. Because believe me, by the end of this week, Soros and his allies, who are endless, will do their best to discredit me through all of their resources. So really, it has to be spread throughout the land. You must do your own research, and you must decide for yourself. It begins tomorrow. Remember when we were explaining the healthcare bill scam? And I showed you in one episode a magic trick. Here is that episode. Look over here. The hand that is holding the gold points to the other hand. They need to distract us long enough. Use that misdirection. Because see, once they pull up and you turn on the lights and you're like, wow, that was amazing with that coin. Then something was behind me. It was healthcare. I wanted to show you at the time how important it is to watch the other hand. Last week on the radio show, we got lots of calls and emails from people saying, hey, guys, They just took down CCX, the climate exchange in Chicago, who just went out of business. Really? Remember this exchange between the CCX founder and a Bloomberg reporter?
How big, ultimately, do you think this market could be?
I think it's a $10 trillion a year market.
Say that again?
$10 trillion a year.
Okay. So a 912 group shined the light on this CCX, and we started talking about it, and the CCX is now phasing out of the carbon credit trading exchange, which will eventually be replaced with an offset registry program. $10 trillion business, just gone. No harm, no foul, no hard feelings, right? Yeah, I know. Backup plan. Watch the other hand. What is this hand doing? Wait for it. Wait for it. Say it with me. George Soros. A UN panel, including billionaire George Soros and Larry Summers, the director of Obama's National Economic Council, said selling carbon emission permits would generate $38 billion and a financial transactions tax an additional $27 billion. But that's just one part of the possible backup plan. Oh, there is so much going on. We've been following it. What happened at the UN in Geneva this weekend? And which one of Soros and Barack Obama's buddies were there? Union members, you should pay attention. Next. On Friday, there was a get-together in Geneva for the United Nations Human Rights Council, including 47 nations like China, Cuba, Iran, and Saudi Arabia. They wanted to look into the human rights violations of us. Whew. I don't know how we stand up to the human rights giants like China, where they pay their people 50 cents a day, or Iran, where they bury women up to their necks to stone them to death for suspected adultery. What are the allegations? Well, Cuba and Iran called on Washington to close Guantanamo prison and investigate alleged torture by U.S. troops. I think we have. By the way, special hello to SEAL Team 10. Love you guys. Anyway, Gitmo, I think they're serving ice cream now, and they're probably watching me now on their big screen TVs. Indonesia, the world's most populous Muslim nation, told the U.S. it needs a better job of promoting religious tolerance. Do we now? Some of the other allegations and input, believe it or not, come from Americans themselves. Now, who do you think might have been over there this Friday? Well, a network of U.S. non-governmental organizations, they're over there. One of these groups is the U.S. Human Rights Network. It's made up of activist organizations whose goal it is to, quote, get full compliance with universal human rights standards in the U.S. It will require the development of a broad-based democratic movement that is dedicated to the long-term goal of transforming the U.S. political culture, transforming America. Ha! Where have I heard that before? And who's funding the effort? Well, the Human Rights Fund is funded by a group of donors and philanthropies, including George Soros's Open Society Institute over in Geneva, were you, Georgie? Now pay close attention here, because Soros also gave $100 million to the Human Rights Watch, not to be confused with the Human Rights Fund. Sometimes they get confusing like that, almost intentionally. Entirely separate group. Human Rights Watch also submitted its opinions to the UN. You know who sits on the board of Human Rights Watch? Bernadine Dohrn, Mrs. Bill Ayers, you know, the bombers, the terrorists from the 70s. She's the vice chair of the Children's Rights Division. Do you remember her?
You know, think that the real terrorist is the American government. State terrorism unleashed against the world.
Yeah. That's some audio you really need to see. Well, George Soros, working against the interest of America in every possible conceivable way. Who else has sent their ideas to Geneva? Who else but the AFL-CIO and SEIU? More on tomorrow's episode. Tomorrow night, an event. The puppet master, George Soros. You don't want to miss this. Tell a friend. Make sure you're here. DVR the rest of the week of this broadcast from New York. Good night, America.